Hello, and welcome back to Park for God. And it's remake time! Again? This time, I went back to a place of imagination, where once a spark of inspiration is at the heart of all creation, where right at the start of everything that's new, one little spark lights up for you. This time, let's take a journey into imagination. In the 70s, Disney had a lot of plans for their theme parks. One plan was for the Epcot Center. This plan was to include a mineral and ecology pavilion, but they were ultimately canceled due to budgetary reasons. The designs inspired two existing pavilions. The first one is the land, and the second was actually the last pavilion ever thought of and built. It was the Journey into Imagination Pavilion, now known as the Imagination Pavilion. Also, even though it was the last one designed, it was actually got sponsored way before in 1977 by Kodak, who have sponsored the pavilion until 2010 when their sponsorship abruptly ended. Back to the design of the pavilion. It took the glass space frame roof in the pyramid shape of the two canceled pavilions. It would also have two floors originally, so there could be a two-level ride. The bottom would be loading and most of the actual ride, and the top would have the finale and unloading for the people to go to the creative playground, ImageWorks, which was also sponsored by Kodak. However, in the end, it was changed to the ride would only be on the bottom floor, but ImageWorks stayed on the upstairs floor. And a 3D theater, known as the Magic Eye Theater, was also being built for the pavilion. Also, outside would have been different imaginative fountains, like the one where water skips to different areas, and another where it's basically an upside-down or backwards waterfall, with the water going up instead of down. But what about the ride? Well, it was a very tricky solution to make the ride based on imagination. But famed Imagineer, Tony Baxter, did it. And many people claimed it was an amazing and imaginative premise. But it all goes back to the 70s again, where another Disney project never made it off the drawing board. The project was called Discovery Bay, which would have been a steampunk land for California's Disneyland. But this isn't Discovery Bay episode, this is a Journey into Imagination episode, so I won't go into much detail about Discovery Bay, besides my previous sentence and my next few sentences. So, in Discovery Bay, there would have been an attraction called Mr. Marvel's Gallery. Hilariously, it was also designed by Baxter. The show would have been about Mr. Marvel, showing the audience his very whimsical gallery of creations that would utilize many audio animatronics. One scene was about him breeding dragons. Mr. Marvel would step in front of a giant audio animatronic dragon to pick up a smaller baby dragon. These two characters, Mr. Marvel and the baby dragon, would then become into the iconic Dreamfinder and Figment. But if you see, Dreamfinder's beard is, well, different. Well, if you see, Dreamfinder currently has a reddish-brown beard instead of the white one. It's because they thought he looked too much like Santa Claus. Ho ho ho. Also, how did Figment get his name? Well, obviously by watching Magnum P.I. That's not a joke. I'm being serious. Are you serious? Really? Really? It's my job. Fine. But seriously, while Tony Baxter was watching the show, Magnum and Higgins were talking, leading Higgins to say,
"And don't tell me it's a figment of my imagination. Figments don't eat rare tropical flowers."
This sparked the idea of the baby dragon's name to be Figment. But wait, the dragon is green. But Figment is purple. Why? Why, man? It makes me so confused. Why? Why? Well, actually, since Fujifilm's main color is green, and since Kodak didn't want it seen that their sponsored ride was sponsoring a competing company, I just suggested purple for Figment. And bada bing, bada boom. Also, the ride would have been more imagination-based than Well, an audio animatronic Hall of American Singing Tiki Birds of Progress Great Country Jamboree Escape Show. So many references in one sentence. So, after years of planning, Journey to Imagination finally opened on March 5th, 1983. The ride would use a newly formed and impressive omnimover system that would allow for the vehicles to stop, sometimes in place, for a stationary scene. The ride's story is as follows. You're flying in the clouds, and you hear some weird noises, and you see the silhouette of something. Then, you see up close and personal that the moving figure was an old red-haired top-hat wearer by the name of Dreamfinder, voiced by Chuck McCann. After introducing himself, he says that he is riding a dream catcher called the Dreammobile, all unsung, which they sing till the end. The song is titled One Little Spark and was written by the Sherman Brothers. The song is now one of the most famous Disney Park theme songs of all time, just because of how amazing and truly kitschy and whimsical it is. Now back on the road. The dream catcher, guess what? Catches dreams for imagination. Ha! And after singing about some animal parts, he creates a figment of imagination named Figment, voiced by Billy Bartley, causing the two to go on an adventure. They first drop off some imagination they had previously catched at the dream port, and then continue up into a room about the aughts, which is mainly white until Dreamfinder pours some color into it. Next, they go into a room based on literature, which is very suspenseful and dark, especially when Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven comes to life, making Figment horrified. Next, they enter the performing arts room, where Figment plays with costumes and Dreamfinders conduct an electronic orchestra. The last room is based on science, where Dreamfinder shows us clips of nature and science. However, Dreamfinder says the key to our imagination is to unlock the hidden wonders of our world, leading to a room with Figment filming and taking a photo of you, surrounding you with fun little clips of Figment being a scientist, a pirate, a mountain climber, a cowboy, a ship captain, a tap dancer, an athlete, and a superhero. This led to the end, where Dreamfinder tells you to go to Imageworks for more imagination. So you left the ride and went upstairs to Imageworks. Imageworks was a playground area, reportedly the first of its kind in a theme park. It opened about half a year before Journey, on October 1st, 1982, which also was the opening of Epcot. All the activities were made to inspire imagination! The activities that stayed since Imageworks' opening were, first, the Rainbow Corridor, a tunnel in which whenever a person walked in, the person would randomly be assigned a color, and that color would appear whenever they are in a tunnel. When another person enters, the new person gets a new color and walks in, creating a rainbow. Next was stepping stones, in which people would step on projected squares, creating sounds and music. Thirdly was Dreamfinder's School of Drama, in which audience members would be told instructions, and, through the use of chroma key video technology, would create a background, making it look like the selected audience members were in a film. The films were a western called The Daring Deputies and the Return of Sagebrush Sam, a fantasy called Enchanted Travelers, Wily Wizard and the Cranky King, and a science fiction film called Acrobatic Astronauts in Galactic Getaway. Next was Making Faces, in which a photo is taken of someone, and they get to modify it with hilarious results. Then there was Magic Palette, in which you could make and or color pictures of Dreamfinder and Figment. Then there's Kaleidoscope, which was basically a giant always changing kaleidoscope. Yeah. Then there was Pin Screens, in which you could put your hand under pins and push up, leaving a mark of your hand. Lastly, there was the Electronic Philharmonic, in which people would conduct an electronic orchestra by raising the sound of the instruments. In fact, if you were fast, you could have the entire orchestra playing. There were also other activities that changed throughout the original Imageworks' lifespan. First was the Light Rider, which would make shapes using lasers. It was then replaced by the more popular Figment's Coloring Book, in which people used buttons under a colorful paintbrush to add color in places of a giant Figment and Dreamfinder picture, using projected lights. Next there was Image Warp and Digital Walls. Image Warp was a bunch of moving mirrors that alter reflections, and Digital Walls was when the audience was standing in front of a translucent wall with lights flashing around. Pretty simple. They were both then replaced by a Mirage Room, in which a bunch of mirrors create a 4D figment which looked like you could touch it. But you couldn't, because it was a mirage. Lastly, there was Lumia, a giant ball that created lights and colors by using different frequencies of sound. It was then replaced by the optical illusion, which was a scene involving painted revolving hot air balloons, including Dreamfinders and even Mickey's. But, though through the use of mirrors, it looked like the balloons were floating above the scene, looking a bit like a 3D picture, even though they were drawn flat. So after the much fun, you went down the escalator leading you to a 3D theater, a Magic Eye Theater, to be precise. The Magic Eye Theater was a 3D 4D theater that opens with Imageworks and the rest of Epcot. It was, well, as previously stated, a theater for imagination. However, this is not the only Magic Eye Theater. California's Disneyland, Disneyland Tokyo, and even Walt Disney World's own Magic Kingdom later got Magic Eye Theaters. The first show was called Magic Journeys. Magic Journeys was an experimental 3D film directed by experimental and Academy Award-winning documentary director Murray Lerner, and had songs and even a pre-show by the Sherman Brothers. The film really has no plot, but it's based around the sights and mind of a little child and their imagination. So while it starts off with kids picking dandelions and flying kites, by the end, it just turns out to be one big drug trip for the kiddies. Magic Journeys was popular and appeared for a short time at all the other Magic Eye Theaters, and it would stay forever. Until Jackson does something that it had to go, because on February 9th, 1986, Magic Journeys closed at the Imagination Pavilion, leading up to September 12th of the same year for a new film to come out, called Michael Jackson in Space. I mean Captain EO. Captain EO was a 4D space opera directed by Francis Ford Coppola and was executive produced by George Lucas. The film also starred Michael Jackson, who also wrote the songs, with James Horner composing the score. The film is about Captain EO and crew delivering a package to the Supreme Leader, who captures them and wants the crew to be turned into trash, and for Captain EO to have a 100-year-old torture. But Captain EO starts singing, causing them to stop. But a crew member named Hooter accidentally causes EO to stop singing, causing them to be sent away. But Hooter repairs EO's instrument singing thing, causing EO to have enough power to turn the evil guards into agile panzers. The Supreme Leader then summons some whip warriors to attack EO. But in the end, he defeats the warriors, turns the leader into a beautiful young woman, and it has a cheesy 80s song. Yay! The film used never-before-seen 4D effects, technically making it one of the first 4D films ever. Also, the film became popular, even though it got mixed reviews. This film just elevated the Imagination Pavilion and Jackson's career, even causing a behind-the-scenes Whoopi Goldberg narrated TV special, and a comic book line. A freaking comic book line! However, on July 6, 1994, Captain EO played its last show. Then, on November 21st of that same year, the third show was made, named Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, based on the Honey, I Shrunk film series. The film was directed by Randall Kleiser, who also directed Grease, Flight the Navigator, and even Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, and starred Rick Moranis, Marcia Strassman, Robert Olivieri, and Eric Idle as Dr. Nigel Channing. By the way, that'll come back later. The film is about the main character of the Honey films, Wayne Szalinski, receiving the Imagination Institute's Inventor of the Year award, which is being given by Dr. Nigel Channing. However, the audience accidentally gets shrunk, causing the characters to try and fix it. During your adventure, you see a projection of a lion so it can scare mice away, and a really scary 4D effect viper. Luckily, you get blown back up and leave with a smile. After the film, You walk outside to see the magnificent fountains, and before you leave, you may get a photo with Dreamfinder and Figment themselves. So that's the end of your imagination tour. Have a good night, folks, and see you next time. Wait! There's still more. This is gonna be a long episode. However, that one little spark started to sizzle. All began with the original ride's big problem. The big opening scene where you see Dreamfinder use the stationary Omnimover system previously stated. There were 5 rooms the Omnimovers could go in. Once in place, they would rotate and click into place to stop, letting people watch the 4-minute scene. However, since there were 5 animatronics in the room, the animatronics would have problems. But also, sometimes the Omnimovers would never lock into place, causing the ride to completely stop. This wasn't rare either, so it became a major and costly problem. Then came one stormy night, which would make a tale of fright. In 1997, camera company and Kodak's rival, Fujifilm, came to Disney with an idea to make Journey into Imagination into a thrill ride, and to remove the imagination. So, basically, they would make Journey into... Yeah, they probably had another name, but I don't know it, so... And neither you, so... Fujifilm proposed this idea to Disney because the Kodak sponsorship was ending, and Fujifilm knew Disney then would need a new sponsor for the pavilion, so they wanted to step in. Afraid, Kodak went right to Disney for the sponsorship to continue. In addition, they would sponsor a new ride and a new ImageWorks. The ride would be more science-focused with imagination and would have cheaper effects than a very costly thrill ride that doesn't even fit the pavilion. The ride would also be based on the Imagination Institute from Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. Because of theming and cost, Disney accepted Kodak's sponsorship, and on October 10th, 1998, the Journey to Imagination Pavilion closed for refurbishment, which included the ImageWorks and the very classic and popular Journey into Imagination. On October 1st, 1999, the newly named Imagination Pavilion opened with a new ImageWorks, and most of all, a new ride called Journey into Your Imagination. There was also a bigger gift shop and smaller water fountains. Journey into Your Imagination was a completely brand new ride that was much shorter and had brand new, if not cheaper, effects. The ride was about Dr. Nigel Channing from the Shrunk the Audience giving you a test in the Imagination Institute. In the queue, you see previous award winners, including the robot from Flubber. In fact, this was originally going to be a Flubber ride. You start the test by getting a scan, showing that you have no imagination. Boo you. Then you go into a different imagination room, which includes going through sound, illusion, color, connections, and gravity. And at the end, you get scanned again, showing your now great imagination. So great, in fact, that the scanners explode, showing a light show, leaving Nigel telling the riders to go to the new ImageWorks. Speaking of which, this new ImageWorks was now downstairs and had a lot fewer activities to do. There were the stepping tones, which returned, mirrors that altered your appearance, sort of like ImageWork, and lastly, you can conduct a classical concert with your hands for each instrument. Sort of like the Electronic Philharmonic. Sort of. Along with these, there was a new and bigger gift shop. But how did they get off the room? Well, they removed most of the problematic scene from the original ride, leaving so much area for the shop and the newly named Kodak ImagineWorks, that would be a better name, ImageWorks What If Labs. This also made the ride shorter, and stopped less, since the hard-to-work-with scene was just gone. Also, the ImageWorks were downstairs because of health and safety problems with the upstairs version, and the paralyzed really couldn't get up there with the chance of being stuck in an elevator, yada yada yada. So that's the new Imagination Institute. It shrunk the audience. What If Labs and Journey into Your Imagination. And obviously, it wasn't popular. Why? For a few main reasons. Though the biggest is that the popular Epcot mascots, Dreamfinder and Figment, were taken out, with only little hints and references toward Figment appearing. In fact, there was very little to do with the original ride. Also, not just fans were furious, but also Kodak, who felt like they didn't get what they deserved, and Disney CEO Michael Eisner just didn't like it, throwing $5 million for a redo. Also, normal riders felt it was a cheap, musicless, and boring. With so much pressure, Imagineers need to make something new, better, bigger, and with Figment. So, on October 8th, 2001, Journey into Your Imagination quietly closed, with ImageWorks also having a new Figmentized rehab. But when done, it was left open, with the exit being the area's entrance until their new ride would come. Then, after a few soft openings, the third Journey Imagination ride came out on June 1st, 2002, being named Journey into Imagination with Figment. The new story was that you're going through a tour of the Institute. While going through the queue, you would see previous award winners, including Rick Moranis' character from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and even Robin Williams' character from the movie Flubber. Rest in peace. You are an amazing guy. So, once you board your vehicles, Nigel starts showing you various rooms based on the senses to expand your imagination. However, Figment, now voiced by Gonzo, which is voice actor David Golez, wrecks things up for imagination, including showing us his own upside-down house. In the end, Nigel joins Figment in his crazy idea of imagination, leading to a Figment-filled ending, taking us to the newly Figmentized ImageWorks, with Figment in the stepping tones, Figment playing instruments to the tune of One Little Spark, and an online game which you can color Figment. Sort of a mix of Making Faces and Figment's coloring book. This new attraction brought back old ideas, including Figment and a new version of One Little Spark. But even with that, the attraction never became as popular or acclaimed as the original ride, with reviews and 5-minute wait times usually. But hey, it was definitely better than the second ride. Also, the ride features many Disney sci-fi comedy references, from Flubber, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and even the computer wore tennis shoes. Fortunately, that was the final ride in the Imagination Pavilion. However, all is not lost, for you see, there are many additional references to the pavilion's past. First off, on July 2nd, 2010, after Michael Jackson's death and the film's success in Disneyland, Captain EO returned to Epcot with the Captain EO tribute. So it seems part of Imagination's past has fully come back. But what about ImageWorks? Well, the area is not completely gone, as shown by various images and videos from people who have explored the abandoned area. Disclaimer, do not go up, cast members do roam it, and you might be expelled from the park, or worse, put in jail. Also, in the Kim Possible World Showcase adventure at Epcot, the finale took place in the abandoned ImageWorks, which was the first time people could go in there, besides the now gone public tours. However, in 2009, it was changed, omitting the ImageWorks finale. Also, the new H&P World Showcase does not go up to the original ImageWorks. But what about Dreamfinder and Figment? Well, Figment still appeared in the new ride as the main character, but there is a door in the ride that cleverly states Dean Finder as a reference. Also, in Epcot's Mouse Gears, you will find up top the Dreammobile that Dreamfinder rode in the original ride. Also, in Disneyland Paris's Phantom Manor, you can see the mayor of this cowboy ghost town looks really closely like Dreamfinder. Well, this is because they use the same mold. However, no, they are not the same, as Phantom Manor came out before Journey to Imagination closed, meaning the original Figment is still gone and missing. Also, there have been many merchandise, including pins, toys, shirts, and even Filmations. Also, after the original ride closed, various pieces from the ride were sold off, including the compass and binoculars from Dreammobile. Also, in 2014, the Marvel comic series Disney Kingdoms released a new sub-series called Figment. That is the backstory of Dreamfinder and Figment, and the creation of the Dreammobile. Lastly, at the 2013 D23, Dreamfinder and Figment became meet and greeters once again. Also, Richard Sherman sang the Magic Journey song that he wrote. Also, at that same D23, at Discovering Disneyland, you could see various images and photos from ImageWorks and Journey into Imagination. Speaking of D23, there was one event that brought peace to the world, but one day. That day gave everyone one little spark. Here it is.
Captain Eel. No, these are fans. These are people who buy all the Figment pins and the Figment shirts. What's wrong? No, I'm not going to sell you. No, this is D23, see? These are all the official Disney fans. Although some of the younger ones look a little surprised that you're not 8 foot tall. And look who's over here. Richard Sherman, how are you, sir? Remember my little rebel buddy? Of course I remember. You look wonderful. You haven't changed a bit. You look absolutely sensational. He doesn't fit you at all. He doesn't age. He ages me. That's always wonderful. Yes. Listen, I wanted to thank you for that warm reception up here. You're responsible for that wonderful song you wrote for us.
Oh, thank you.
That must have been quite a feat.
I enjoy writing it for you.
Yeah. Listen, I know it's a bit of a favor. I know you don't take requests. But would you sing one little spark for me?
Oh, I'd be thrilled to sing you. One little spark of inspiration is at the heart of all creation, right at the start of everything that's new. One little spark lights up for you. Imagine
One little spark of inspiration is at the heart of all creation,
a dream
right at the start of everything that's new.
with just that spark from me and you.
Word with me.